So I want you to picture the desk in front of us right now. It is just groaning under the weight of all this paper.
It really is.
We've got the Federal Aviation Administration regulations, Title 14 of the Code of Federal Regulations, which is about as dry as it sounds.
Oh, yeah. And then you have the Pilot's Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge, the PHA.
Right.
It's the size of a phone book, back when phone books were still a thing.
Exactly. And then we have these really practical sort of boots-on-the-ground guides from AOPA, EAA, and GLEAM. And to the untrained eye, this just looks like a wall of bureaucracy. It looks like homework.
But if you know how to read it, which is what we're here for, it's not a wall at all. It's a treasure map.
It's a treasure map. I like that.
It is a very specific step-by-step guide for unlocking what is arguably the ultimate human superpower, flight.
And that is the mission for this deep dive.
Right.
We are stripping away all the magic and looking at the actual mechanics.
Yeah.
We want to figure out exactly how a student, someone in middle school or high school right now, can go from, sitting in geometry class to sitting in a cockpit.
Actually flying a machine thousands of feet above the ground, legally.
Yeah, legally.
And we are focusing mostly on the private pilot certificate today because that's really the gold standard. And the sources are surprisingly clear, This isn't something reserved for geniuses or billionaires. It's accessible.
But you have to know the code.
You have to know the code.
So let's crack it. The very first thing that stops people, especially teenagers, is this assumption that you have to be 18. Or you need to join the Air Force, or
have $50,000 in cash just to see if you even like it.
Right.
That's the biggest misconception, and frankly, it's one the industry is desperate to correct. You don't start by mortgaging your house. You start with something called a discovery flight.
I love this concept. It's basically the try before you buy model.
Yeah.
So walk us through what that actually looks like, because the Pilot's Handbook makes it sound very different from just being a passenger.
Oh, it's completely different. When you book a discovery flight at a local flight school, and pretty much every local airport has one, you aren't sitting in the back eating peanuts.
Okay.
You meet a certified flight instructor, a CFI. You walk out to a small plane, usually a Cessna 172 or maybe a Piper Archer. And here's the kicker.
Huh?
You sit in the left seat.
The captain seat.
The pilot seat. The instructor's right next to you with their own set of controls, of course. They'll handle the radio and the takeoff because that takes some finesse.
Sure.
But once you're at a safe altitude, maybe 2,000 or 3,000 feet up, they take their hands off the yoke, they look at you and they say, "Your airplane."
That moment has to be just insane. You walk in off the street and 20 minutes later you're flying the plane.
You are flying the plane. You turn the wheel left, the whole world tilts left. You pull back gently, the houses get smaller, and the sources all emphasize this huge psychological shift.
How so?
It changes from, "I dream about this," to, "I am doing this right now." It's a litmus test, really, for your brain and your stomach.
Now, these flights usually cost a little bit, right? Maybe $150, $200.
Yeah, around there.
But if you're a student, the sources, especially the stuff from the EAA, suggest you might not even have to pay that.
This is one of the best kept secrets in all the data. The Experimental Aircraft Association, the EAA, has a program called Young Eagles,
Okay.
and they have flown over 2 million kids.
2 million.
Over 2 million. If you're between 8 and 17, they have this massive network of volunteer pilots who will take you up for a free introductory flight.
No cost at all.
No cost. They donate their time, their fuel, their aircraft, just to spark that interest.
That's amazing. And I'm looking at the notes. The Civil Air Patrol does something similar.
Yes, the CAP. They're the civilian auxiliary of the Air Force. Their cadet program is a bit more structured, discipline, leadership, uniforms. But it includes 5 free orientation flights.
And you get to fly.
You get to go up in a CAP aircraft and actually handle the controls.
And we should definitely mention Women in Aviation International, or WAI. Aviation has been historically very male-dominated.
Extremely. But WAI is aggressively countering that with their Girls in Aviation Day.
Right.
These are global events designed to put young women right in front of female pilots and engineers and mechanics. The message from all these organizations is exactly the same. The airport gate is unlocked. You just have to push it open.
Okay, so you've done it. You took that first flight, you saw the world from above, you didn't get sick, and you are hooked.
You want to do it for real now.
Want to do it for real. So now you face a choice. The sources talk about a couple different levels of licenses, almost like a skill tree in a video game.
That is a great analogy. You basically have the sport pilot path and the private pilot path.
Let's break those down, because for a student who might want a career in this, that choice really matters.
It matters immensely. Look, the Sport Pilot Certificate is like the light version. It's easier to get, fewer hours, no night flying, smaller planes, and you can use a driver's license instead of getting a formal medical exam.
So it's good for a hobbyist.
It's great for a weekend hobbyist, but if you're a high schooler thinking, I want to be a professional pilot one day, Sport Pilot is, well, it's a dead end. You need the Private Pilot Certificate.
The private pilot is the foundation.
It's a prerequisite for everything else. It unlocks night flying, it unlocks larger aircraft, it lets you carry more than one passenger, and, most importantly, it is the first step on the ladder to the airlines.
So assuming our listener wants that full experience, the private pilot license, let's look at the requirements. I was reading the regulations on age, and I actually had to double-check them because they seemed too young.
It surprises everyone. There is absolutely no minimum age to start training. If you're 13 and you can reach the pedals and see over the dashboard, an instructor can legally teach you how to land a plane.
But you can't fly by yourself yet?
No. That's the first big legal milestone. To solo, which means you are the only person in the aircraft, you have to be 16 years old for an airplane.
16. So you can fly a plane alone before you can even get a full driver's license in a lot of states.
Correct. You can literally take a machine into the sky by yourself while your friends are still asking their parents for a ride to the mall.
And for gliders, it's even younger.
14 for gliders and balloons. But for the actual private pilot license, that piece of plastic that lets you carry passengers, you have to be 17.
There's also a really specific note in the regulations about language. Title 14 CFR says you have to be able to read, speak, write, and understand the English language.
That is non-negotiable. English is the international language of aviation. Whether you're landing in Tokyo or Berlin or Chicago, the controllers and the pilots are all speaking English. It's a critical safety standard.
To prevent miscommunication.
Exactly.
Okay, so you're 16, you speak English. Now comes the part that sounds hard. The medical. The private pilot license requires a third-class medical certificate. That sounds pretty serious.
It sounds intimidating, but for a healthy teenager, it's usually very straightforward. You go to an AME, an aviation medical examiner.
Okay.
They check your vision, and you can wear glasses. That's fine. Your hearing, your color vision, and just your general health. They just want to make sure you weren't going to have a seizure or a heart attack while you're flying.
So if you pass that, you get your student pilot certificate, and now the real work begins. The sources kind of divide the training into two big buckets, ground and air. And they really emphasize that people always underestimate the ground part.
Always. Everyone wants to grab the yoke and just go zoom. But aviation is like 50% academic. You're studying physics, aerodynamics, lift, drag. You're studying meteorology, how to read complex weather charts and understand what a dew point spread actually means.
You're studying federal law.
You're studying federal law. And you have to pass a test on all of it.
A standardized FAA written knowledge test.
Yeah, it's usually 60 multiple choice questions. If you don't pass that, you don't get your license, period.
Yep. The guides from Glame and King schools seem to suggest a strategy here.
Yeah.
Do this at home.
Absolutely. This is a huge money saver. You can sit in a classroom and pay an instructor $60 or $70 an hour to lecture you. Or you can buy a home study course with online videos and practice quizzes and learn it all on your own laptop at your own pace.
Get it done early.
The sources highly recommend getting that written test done and out of the way so it's not hanging over your head while you're trying to learn how to land.
Speaking of learning to land, let's talk flight training. This is the sexy part. You're in the plane with your instructor.
Right, dual instruction. You're learning maneuvers, steep turns, stall recovery, emergency procedures, but mostly, you are learning to land. You will spend hours and hours just in the traffic pattern.
Just flying a rectangle.
Taking off, flying a rectangle, and landing. Over and over and over again.
And this all leads up to the moment that every single pilot remembers for the rest of their life. The first solo.
It is the holy grail of flight training. You've been flying with your instructor for maybe 15 or 20 hours. They've been your safety net. They fix your mistakes. Then one day, the weather is perfect. You do 3 good landings in a row. The instructor tells you to taxi back to the ramp. They sign your logbook, they open the door, step out, look at you and say, "Don't break my airplane."
And then the seat next to you is just empty.
It's empty, the cabin is suddenly quiet. You taxi out to the runway, and for the very first time in your life, you are truly alone. You push the throttle in, and the plane just leaps off the ground because it's 200 pounds lighter without your instructor.
I can only imagine that rush.
It is a mix of pure terror and absolute euphoria. You realize, I am the only person in the world who can bring this machine safely back to Earth.
Wow.
The sources talk a lot about the maturity that comes from that moment. You can't just pause the game. You can't pull over to the side of the road. You have to execute. It builds a level of confidence that very, very few other activities can match.
So once you survive the solo, you have to do cross-country flights. Now, to a non-pilot, cross-country sounds like flying from New York to L.A.
Right, but in FAA terms, cross-country just means landing at an airport more than 50 nautical miles away from where you started. It's about proving you can navigate.
So it's not just flying in circles anymore.
No, you're using the plane for actual transportation. You have to plan the route, calculate your fuel burn, adjust for wind drift, and talk to air traffic control in unfamiliar airspace.
And for the private license, you have to do this at night, too.
3 hours of night training, yeah. Night flying is beautiful. The cities look like these glowing jewelry boxes, but it's also more dangerous. You can lose the horizon. You have to rely more on your instruments.
So you learn to trust the data.
You learn to trust the data over your inner ear.
And finally, you face the boss battle, the check ride.
The practical test. You fly with a designated pilot examiner. It starts with an oral exam on the ground. They can take hours where they grill you on everything. Systems, regulations, you name it.
And if you pass that,
you go fly. You have to demonstrate all the maneuvers, handle simulated engine failures, and land safely. If you pass, they sign your temporary certificate right there on the spot.
okay, I'm sold. I want to do it. But we have to address the elephant in the room, the cost. The listener is doing the math in their head, instructor time, plane rental, fuel, and those numbers are getting big.
We have to be transparent. Aviation is expensive. The average cost for a private pilot certificate in the U.S. is generally somewhere between $8,000 and $12,000.
And in big cities, it could be more.
In major cities, it can push $15,000, yeah.
That is a lot of lawn mowing money for a high schooler.
It is. But the documents from AOPA, OBA, and WAI are all screaming one message. Do not let the sticker price stop you. There is a strategy to fund this.
Scholarships.
Millions of dollars in scholarships. The aviation industry knows it's facing a pilot shortage, so they are throwing money at the problem. Women in Aviation International offers huge scholarships. The Organization of Black Aerospace Professionals, OBBAC, has funding specifically to diversify the cockpit.
And AOPA has one just for high schoolers.
A huge one. The You Can Fly High School Flight Training Scholarship Program gives away $1 million a year to high school students.
So the strategy is basically treat applying for scholarships like it's a part-time job.
Absolutely. And there are other ways to bring the cost down. We mentioned the Home Study Ground School, but the AOPA guides also talk about using ground trainers or simulators.
And we don't just mean a video game on your computer.
Well, even a desktop simulator helps, but we're really talking about chair flying.
Chair flying.
It's a technique where you literally sit in a chair at home, close your eyes, and visualize the entire flight. You reach for the imaginary knobs. You say the radio calls out loud.
It sounds a little silly.
It looks silly, but it works. If you spend 20 minutes chair flying a procedure, you don't have to spend 20 minutes paying an instructor $75 an hour to teach it to you in the air.
You show up to the lesson already knowing the flow.
And that saves thousands of dollars over the course of your training.
That's a pro tip. Learn on the ground, practice in the air. So let's zoom out. Why go through all this trouble? Is this just a really cool, really expensive hobby, or is there a real future here?
If you look at the Boeing Pilot and Technician Outlook, which is a major industry forecast we have in our stack, the career potential right now is staggering. They're projecting a global need for hundreds of thousands of new pilots over the next 20 years.
And why is the demand so high?
It's demographics. The baby boomer pilots are all hitting the mandatory retirement age of 65. They're retiring in massive waves, and the airlines are scrambling to replace them.
So what does that path look like for a teenager? You get your private pilot license at 17? You can't go fly a 747 yet?
No, not yet. The traditional ladder is private pilot. Then you get your instrument rating to fly in the clouds. Then your commercial pilot certificate, so you can actually get paid. After that, most people become a certified flight instructor, a CFI.
So you teach other people how to fly.
Exactly. You teach new students, and that helps you build up your flight experience. Once you hit 1,500 hours of flight time, you're eligible for the Airline Transport Pilot Certificate.
And then it's under the airlines.
Then you go to the regional airlines, and eventually the major airlines, Delta, United, American.
What about the pay? I know historically entry-level pilots didn't make very much.
That has changed dramatically in the last few years. Regional airline pay has just skyrocketed to attract talent. And senior captains at the major airlines, they are earning well into the multiple six figures. It's a very lucrative career.
And it's not just airlines. The sources point to this massive drone revolution.
This is a crucial addition for any student today. You can get a remote pilot certificate under Part 1 or 7 of the regulations. This lets you fly drones commercially.
And you can do that at 16.
You can. The barrier to entry is much, much lower. You pass a knowledge test, get vetted by the TSA, and you can start a business flying drones for real estate photography or agricultural monitoring, infrastructure inspection.
It's a huge market.
The commercial drone market is estimated at over $80 billion. It is a legitimate career path that lets you be an aviator without ever leaving the ground.
And for those who love the machines but maybe don't want to be the one flying them.
The ecosystem is huge. The Gleim materials make a specific point to honor the AMT's aviation maintenance technicians. Without them, nothing flies.
And there's a shortage of mechanics too.
Just as acute as the shortage of pilots. Or you could go into air traffic control managing the flow of the skies. Or aerospace engineering.
It really feels like the private pilot license is the master key that opens the door to all of this. Even if you become an engineer, knowing how to fly must give you an edge.
It gives you context. It differentiates you from literally everyone else in the room.
So let's wrap this up. We've looked at the regulations, the training, the money, the careers. What's the final verdict for our middle and high school listeners?
The verdict is that becoming a pilot is hard, but it is a solvable hard. It requires study. It requires practice. And it requires a level of maturity that will absolutely set you apart from your peers.
But it's achievable.
If you are 16 or 17 years old, you are physically and mentally capable of doing this. The sources are unanimous on that.
And the so what? Here, it goes beyond just getting a job.
It really does. Even if you never fly professionally, learning to fly rewires your brain. It teaches you risk management. It teaches you situational awareness. It gives you this quiet confidence. When you've successfully navigated a machine through the sky by yourself, dealing with wind and radios, regular teenage problems like a math test or an awkward social situation, they just seem much, much smaller.
It puts the whole world in perspective.
Literally. You see the world from a vantage point that 99% of humans only ever see through a tiny plastic window. You have the freedom to move in 3 dimensions.
I want to leave the listener with this final thought that really struck me while reading the Young Eagles material. Next time you drive past your local airport, look at that chain link fence. Most people look at that fence and they see a barrier. They see a sign that says, "Keep out."
It's designed to look that way.
But I want you to look at it as a gate. Behind that fence is a classroom. But instead of a desk, you get a cockpit. Instead of a whiteboard, you get the horizon. If a 16-year-old can be trusted to make life or death decisions at 5,000 feet, what can't they do?
It just changes your definition of capable.
So pull out your phone. Don't just dream about it. Google Discovery Flight near me. Call the number. See what happens when you get behind the fence.
Clear skies.
We'll see you on the next Deep Dive.